everything just kind of goes a little slow-mo, and at the same, I'm just sitting there watching. I have no idea about the Twin Towers. I have no idea where that's at. I know where New York's at, but at the time I had never left Culver City, man. I had no reason to go east of the 405. I knew nothing about New York and the Twin Towers or anything like that. And it wasn't until after, the news reported that Bush grounded all planes and shut down all military installations. So that's when that MEPS commander walked in and said, okay, well, you heard the news, you heard the commander in chief. We got to get all these kids home. There's no planes flying out and all bases are shut. So, everybody work on getting your kids home. Except for the Marines. You guys are a short bus ride down to MCRD. We don't need planes for that. We're at war. War needs Marines.
This episode is brought to you by Trident Coffee, the veteran-owned brand where every sip inspires you to live life full steam ahead. I've been drinking their coffees for a while now, and I'm glad to partner with a company whose products I use. At Trident, they're more than just coffee, they're storytellers. Crafted by veterans, their instant cold brew is perfect for those who serve, those who have served, and anyone who values wellness. Featuring natural ingredients like organic mushrooms, adaptogens, and nootropics, it's more than just a morning pick-me-up. It's your new wellness ritual. Enjoy it at home or on the go, wherever your day takes you. Trident Coffee isn't just about great-tasting coffee. It's about empowering you to be the healthiest version of yourself, because great veterans make great citizens. Try their instant cold brew today, along with many other coffee products, and taste the freedom of wellness. Remember, when you choose Trident, you're not just choosing coffee, you're choosing a path of connection through health and wellness. Head on over to tridentcoffee.com and use the promo code TDP15 for 15% off your order. Again, that's TDP15 for 15% off your order. This episode is brought to you by Softleat, a tactical fitness company founded by special operations soldiers. Softleat is dedicated to helping you achieve a healthy lifestyle. From expertly crafted training programs to high-quality proteins, pre-workouts, and sleep and recovery supplements, they've got everything you need to power through your day. Softleat also has a full line of clothing. They have you covered from shorts to cold weather gear. Embracing the motto, Die Living, Softleat inspires us all to embrace life with vigor and resilience. So take the first step towards a healthier you. Visit softleat.com, that's SOFLETE.com, and use the promo code TDP2024 to get 20% off your order. Again, that's TDP2024 for 20% off your order. Hey everybody, welcome back. My guest this time is a Marine Corps combat veteran. He came to the country as a very young boy. You could almost say a baby. Grew up poor, grew up with gangs right outside of his front door that he had to struggle to avoid. On the other hand, very intelligent. All the testing, the aptitude testing, all pointed to him being very smart. But he wasn't challenged in school, so he basically checked out. Decided to go in the Marine Corps. Ended up in MEPS on 9/11. Could have maybe snuck away, chose to stay, pay a debt that he felt his family owed. He enjoyed the Marine Corps, wanted to stay in at the end of his first enlistment. His window closed, lost his opportunity. He went into the private sector, utilized skills that he had learned in the Marine Corps to become very successful. At the same time, though, struggling personally with the trauma and everything else related to being in combat. It pretty much took as much of a toll as it could have on a person. Today, he stepped away from that and he started his own nonprofit, Semper Utilis. He started the nonprofit with the intention of giving veterans the opportunity to earn with a purpose, as opposed to simply just giving them handouts. This was an interesting conversation, and I know you're going to enjoy it. So let's get into episode 162 with Diego Garcia. Did you go through it?
Yeah, I've tried it. I've done it a couple times. Yeah.
What drew you to it?
The nuance, it's a new therapy, like a psychedelic experience with just lights and sound. Yeah, right. It's like you have your eyes closed and you're saying things. Yeah, right. And so I was like, all right. And he He recommended it. He said, come on down. We charge people. We charge guys like $300, $400 to it. You could do it for free. I was like, sure, why not? I mean, it'd be rude not to at this point.
Right.
So, yeah, I tried it out, and it's cool. I really liked it. Yeah.
Cool. When you went to the facility, obviously, or maybe not obviously, were you looking for something to help you, or was it just something that came up like, hey, go try this, give it a try?
I was looking for something to help me for sure. Yeah, I've been big on just kind of self-help for a while now. So I'm always looking for different modalities and different different types of resources that just kind of help to help me get through, everything that I've been going through.
I definitely want to go down that path of struggles that you've experienced since being out of the military. Where I want to start, though, is let's go backwards. Let's talk about you growing up. Where were you born? Where's hometown?
So I was actually born in Mexico. I was brought into the country when I was a year and a half old. So my very first memories are here in LA. I grew up in Culver City. So like Culver City, Venice, Santa Monica, those were my stomping grounds since I could remember till 17, 18 when I left to boot camp. That's where I grew up. Growing up was tough, man. I was an immigrant. I didn't know I was an immigrant. I was illegal until I was like 16, 17. I didn't know I was illegal. I grew up in the projects, so I knew I was poor. Grew up with an alcoholic father, an abusive mom. I grew up with gangs, both in school and outside of school, trying to get to me. And so I grew up pretty tough, man. It wasn't, it definitely wasn't a traditional, kind of a middle America growing up lifestyle, growing up in the projects on welfare, donated produce, didn't know what we were going to eat. If my dad was working, that meant he was drinking. If he was working and drinking, that meant my mom was mad. And I was a pretty rambunctious kid. So, at the time she disciplined me a lot. Now we know that as child abuse. Not that I didn't, in a sense, deserve it. I was pretty rambunctious and I didn't listen, and it kind of did take that kind of discipline to keep me on the right track. So yeah, man, it wasn't the best childhood growing up, and honestly, it's one of the reasons why I joined the military, why I joined the Marine Corps, to escape.
Brothers, sisters?
I have an older brother and 4 sisters, so I'm the middle child. Yeah. Actually, what brought my family to this country was my eldest brother's disability. So he has this very rare illness called NF1, where pretty much all his nerve endings kind of keep growing out beyond the muscle, and you start getting like little bumps all throughout your skin, all throughout. So he has a lot of little tiny, like marble size to pellet size to golf ball, softball size tumors all throughout his body. So when he was born like that in Mexico, they had never seen anything like that. The doctors were pretty much telling my mom, like, oh, he's going to die soon, so might as well just donate him to medicine and go about your life. And she obviously didn't want that. Heard about better doctors in the U.S., so that's what brought my family over here, so my brother could start getting treatment while he was here. So I was actually the last. It's my eldest brother, and 2 older sisters, and myself. I was the last one born in Mexico, and then my 2 youngest sisters were born here in the U.S. But big family, but I somehow still grew up alone. The sister closest in age is about 9 years. And my other sister, the next closest sister is 10 years. So I'm right in the middle of 2 kids. I just kind of grew up alone, even though I had a big family.
So you were alone in the sense that you just really almost couldn't relate to your brothers and sisters around you.
Correct. Yeah. My sisters were in high school when I was in kindergarten. First grade. So you couldn't relate to them. And then by the time I got to middle school or close to high school was when my nexus, was being born. So no, I didn't really have anyone I could really relate with. So growing up in the projects, there's a lot of kids that, really don't have a lot of supervision. So I grew up in the streets. I grew up in the projects, running around all over the place, getting in a lot of trouble, doing my best staying away from the gangs.
So that was definitely where I wanted to go with it. Was it your conscious effort to try to avoid the gang life, or was it a combination of you and then your mom and her punishment, we'll call it?
Both. I was a pretty impressionable kid, and I was very easily influenced. So I was always trying to, impress my friends and be cool. So growing up in the projects, there's already a lot of gang members in there, and I'm growing up with their kids. I'm growing up with their sons, 3rd-generation, 4th-generation gang members. So they would kind of influence me to do certain things, and me trying to fit in, trying to be cool. Like, yeah, I'm not a bitch. Yeah, let's do it. But at the end of the day, man, I'm a lover. I'm not a fighter. And these guys were always trying to fight. When I moved into the projects, there was actually a war going on. This was like in the mid 80s. So you might remember in LA, mid 80s, early 90s, there's a big war going on, right? A lot of street gangs were fighting nonstop. So in the Culver City projects, there was 2 street gangs, Culver City Boys, which is predominantly Latino gang, and Venice Shoreline Crips, predominantly Black gang. They were both in the same projects. As soon as when I moved in the early 80s, mid 80s, the war started and Culver City started kicking out Venice from those projects. So, there was drive-bys, there was bombings, cars being blown up in front of my house, people being murdered. In the middle of the day, 12, noon, 3, we're outside playing. Then we just start hearing the drive-bys or shooting. We all just kind of start playing, looking around. Gangsters did their thing and we'd go right back into playing. It's kind of how I grew up. And I very quickly realized I didn't want to be part of that. I didn't want to be shot. I don't want to be fighting all the time. I don't have to look, behind my back all the time. I had cousins in different cities. I'd go to that city and oh man, you're wearing those shoes. Don't let anyone see you. That you might get beat up or killed for them because those are British Knights, and here that means blood killers. And I'm like, oh shit, I didn't know. And I couldn't wear red, I couldn't wear blue, I couldn't wear white. It was tough.
Mom, why are my clothes green?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, Mom, can I get something else? But yeah, I very quickly I didn't want to be part of that life. It was cool, and they had all the attention, they had money, they had the cool clothes and they had all that, but. Again, I was a lover, not a fighter, and I did not want to, just be that tough fighting individual all the time that had to look behind his back.
Do you remember your mom and dad having any type of conversations about like, hey, we need to find someplace else to live, or I can't imagine that they didn't see what was going on outside the door either.
Yeah, that wasn't an option to go live somewhere else. Again, we were illegal at the time. My dad was a pretty bad alcoholic. So if he did work, he was a jack of all trades. So he knew how to build. He could build a house from scratch, plumbing, electrical, concrete. He knew it all. But if he worked, he had money. He was drinking. So it never was an option for us to think, oh, we need to move out of it. It was a blessing to be able to live in the projects because it's Section 8 housing. So they work with you as far as rent goes. If you made X amount of dollars, they tax you, a certain percentage of it. So if you weren't making any money, guess what? You weren't paying rent in Section 8. So it wasn't an option for us to get out.
As far as avoiding the gangs, did you have to almost do that, I'll say, by yourself? Or was there, in a weird way, a group of your friends that you almost kind of became a gang of non-gang members to try to protect yourselves?
No, my neighbors were gang members. Every, 2, 3, 4 houses down, there were gang members. A building, 2, 3 building overs, there were gang members. They all had kids. We were all growing up, together. Those of us that did try to escape, hanging out with the gang members, we played sports. So there were a lot of, sports teams in the project. So we had basketball, football, soccer and all that. So I did enroll myself in all the sports. I played everything that I could, to stay out the house, stay away from that element, and just try to be a good kid.
I had a recent guest who grew up in Watts, and it was the same kind of thing. Everywhere around him was gang members. But once they realized that he was going towards sports, it almost kind of was his validation of, hey, leave him alone. That's the path that he's going on. And so but he still talked about all the fights he still had to get into. I mean, it's around you all the time.
Oh yeah. It's around you, kids that are your friends talk to you one day, the next day see you with time a Walkman, and now they want it, and they see you with a cool bike, now they want it, so it's cutthroat, and for me, at least, no, it wasn't respected, by the gang members. Like, oh yeah, he's playing sports. It's not like it's more like the gang members are out there watching us play sports, and they would try to recruit us. Like, oh man, here's $5, go get some ice cream. Here's $2. Or hey man, I left something right there. I need you to just watch it, and I'll be right back. They do little things like that while we were a kid, 8, 9, 10 years old.
For you, as far as sports, did it ever get to a point where there were aspirations of taking any one of the sports further?
Heck no. I'm short. I was pudgy, and I was slow. I had heart, but that's and I gave it my all. But no, I was good at sports in elementary and in middle school. I played high school football, but very quickly when I got to varsity, I was like, yeah, this is as far as I'm going. These guys are 6 feet, 300 pounds, and I'm like, no way, I'm hurting myself here. So I knew I wasn't going anywhere with sports. It was more of a way to get away from my environment. Not be at home and not be out in the streets.
How were you in school academically?
Oh man, I was a smart kid. And, the only reason I say that is because all my teachers told me I was a smart kid. My test scores showed that I was a smart kid. My standardized testing scores show that I was a smart kid. I was always, getting high percentages and whatnot. But my problem was that I always finished my work too early. And then I got bored and I started talking, and then I distract other kids, and there was no filter between my thoughts and my mouth at the time. So if I thought it just came straight out, and that got me into so much trouble. I'd say something and the whole class would just start bursting, laughter. I didn't even know what the heck I said, and the teachers get pissed off at me. So I got in a lot of trouble in school for, little dumb things like that. But I was a smart kid. I was able to knock out all my work, but I was a horrible student. I never did any homework. I hardly did any classwork. In high school, I barely graduated high school because I ditched so much. So there was actually, I didn't know, but there's a state minimum a number of days that you have to go. If you don't, you can't graduate it. If I would have missed like 2-3 more days of school, I wouldn't have had the minimum number of days to graduate from high school. I wasn't going to be allowed to cross the stage in graduation because I had missed so much school. So to make up for it, I had to show up to like weekend detentions for like 3-4 months for senior year just to make up the time and be able to go back to school. So I was a smart kid, but I wasn't applying myself, and I didn't care. And I started rebelling against school. Actually, in middle school, I was in the gifted classes, and we're all the smart kids and everything. And same thing, I'd finish my work quickly, and I'd start talking, or I'd just start, trying to not be bored, and I'd get in trouble with the teachers, and especially in the gifted classes, everyone there's really quiet and really smart, and very attentive, and they listen to the teachers, not me. So I got kicked out of the gifted classes for my behavior, and then I think at that point I was like, you know what, man, fuck school. It's like, I'm not even doing anything bad. I'm doing my work. I'm just, having conversations. Like, I'm not a bad kid, and they're going to punish me by not teaching me. I was like, fuck school. And at that point, I just kind of didn't really care anymore, and did the bare minimum, and that's all I really cared about, just having fun and doing the minimum, getting by. I was cool with C's and D's. I would get those grades just on my test, and I wouldn't really do any classwork or homework, and I was always ditching. So
your story resonates a lot with me because a lot of it was the same for myself and barely passing. To me, a D was passing kind of deal. And conversation later in life with my mom and her saying that, when you were in elementary school, they wanted to put you in the gifted program. And she said, no, she goes, I don't want him separated from all the other kids. But I think about those and man, just one flick of a different opportunity. Had you been in the right environment that would have seen where you were at academically and your ability to learn and had that next step just to keep challenging you, you kind of wonder, shit, where could I have ended up?
Where could have I ended up? Yeah, exactly. I think about that too. But it is what it is. And I made that conscious decision to, just kind of break up with the school system and not care. I told myself, if I'm that smart, I'll figure it out. But I'm a kid, I'm 12. I'm not that smart and I wasn't going to figure it out. But it was just, it was the easiest thing to do. I didn't have anyone at home. Hey, sit down, let's do homework. Hey, why are you getting B's? Why are you getting a D? My mom barely, as long as I wasn't failing, that's all she cared.
For a ditch day, what would you do? Like you'd bail out of school and what did you like to go do for that day?
So I mostly ditched in high school, not too much in middle school, but I mostly ditched in high school. And we just go around smoking weed, man. This was 90s. No, sorry. So this is late 90s now, when I'm in high school. So, this is when like the best weed was coming out, the chronic, the Indo smoke, the hydro, all that stuff was coming out. And I'm in Venice, mecca of weed. So we just leave, go to different people's houses and we'd smoke blunts, man, and just smoke ourselves silly. I ditch for a couple periods here and there, go back to the periods I did like, go back for lunch or something like that. But we just go to different people's homes and just kind of hang out with her.
Were you aware enough to not ditch too much where you couldn't play sports? Yes, I couldn't. I wasn't ditching enough where I couldn't play sports, and I had to maintain my grades just enough to play. But even then, I very quickly realized that a lot of the teachers will pass you just so you could play. I was failing a couple classes, and the teacher straight out told me, "Hey, Diego, you're failing my class right now, but if I fail you, you won't be able to get your 2.0 and you can't play. You're forcing me to give you a C right now. I'm trying to figure out your GPA and you're forcing me to give you a C, Diego." I'm like, oh, well, shit, sorry. My bad. My bad. And it's just, that's the kind of high school it was. And I always had good rapport with the teachers, even though I was a bad student. So they always, a lot of them liked me. So they would help me out. They'd hook me up. Was there ever any aspirations of college? Did you ever even consider it? No, man. I thought I was going to end up driving a forklift at Home Depot, brother. I thought that was what I was going to do after high school. There is a local community college, Santa Monica College, that was really good at just kind of taking everybody in, but we were broke. We didn't have any money. And I started working when I was like 10 years old, and worked all through middle school, all through high school. So for me, going to college meant taking out loans, meant working, meant struggling just to go to an environment I didn't want to be in. I didn't like school. I didn't like that rigidity of sitting down in a chair and listening to someone run their mouth over on something I don't really care about. And so I knew college wasn't for me. When you started working, was the money, were you forced to work by your parents and that money to come back into the family? Or was that, hey, I'm going to go work to put money in my own pocket? I was not forced to work, by my family, but I was taxed for 50% of every paycheck. That's for damn sure. But no, I wanted to go out and work because there wasn't any money. I didn't have any money. I couldn't buy a bag of chips because mom would always be, so broke. So in order for me to get what I wanted, I had to go work. In order for me to buy the clothes I wanted, I had to go work. In order for me to buy the snacks, to get haircuts, I had to go work. And I met a friend that was working for some nonprofit organization, going around door to door selling newspaper.
You know, the name of the organization was PACT, as a Positive Alternative Choices Today. So they took kids from the inner cities, they partnered them with a chaperone, and we went door to door selling the LA Times and Daily Breeze and the Outlook at the time. You know, so we would enter commission off of that. You know, every newspaper we sold, we made like $2.50 for every subscription, and we'd go around door to door. You know, after school, weekends, summers, and you know, I saw my friends having money because of that, so I wanted to do that. You know, so I did that until I aged out. I was like 14, 15, 16 or something like that, and then I, you know, got a traditional job at a bakery or something.
When does the military come to your attention?
Summer of 10th and 11th grade. So I'm going into 11th grade summer. You know, my mom wakes me up like at noon. she's like, you can
get out of bed today?
she's like, the Marines are on the phone. I'm like, Marines are on the phone? What the hell? Like, yeah, you know, they want to talk to you. Like, to me, like, yeah, they said your name. Like, okay. And I'm like, hello. And, you know, oh, Staff Sergeant Broussard from the United States Marine Corps. And I just, you know, this Diego? And I was like, yeah. I was like, hey, Diego, you know, I want to talk to you a little about the Marines, about the military. You ever think about joining? I was like, yeah. He's like, you busy today? No. You free right now? Can I come pick you up? Yeah. All right, I'm on my way. I was like, don't you want my address? No, I already have it. What the hell? I was like, okay. You know, I got dressed and went down to a recruiter's office, and they showed me a video. They gave me a little pamphlet. They already had my ASVAB scores because I had taken them just to get out of class one day, They're like, oh, come take the ASVAB. So I took it. I already had my ASVAB scores. She's like, you know, with these scores, you can do whatever you want in the military. There's a list of all of our jobs. And I was like, oh, man, these are really cool jobs, you know, like really technical jobs. And I was like, okay. I was like, this is cool. I was like, all right, where do I sign? That was it. It took less than an hour, man. And I was 16 though. So she's like, oh, well, you know, technically we need your parents' permission for you to sign your intent. And I was, all right, well, let's go. Went back home that same day, and I told them, hey, Mom, I'm going to sign, you know, but they need your permission for me to sign now. And that was it, man. That was it. Going into, oh, no, I'm sorry, I misspoke. I said it was summer 10, 11th. No, the recruiter came in summer of 11 and 12. So I went in 12th grade already knowing I was going into the Marines right after high school.
What year is this?
This was, I graduated in 2001, so this would have been like 2000. Right? Yeah, 2000.
So you're just pre 9/11. So
oh no,
really?
Oh no, I'm pre and post.
What I'm saying is, when you did the delayed entry, you were pre 9/11.
Correct.
So there was really, I mean, except for like the Gulf Wars, there really wasn't an idea of combat or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
For your parents, though, were they on board with you going in the military?
They were supportive because I wanted to, because I expressed interest in wanting to do it. But no, they did not want me to join the military. They knew about the Marines, and they knew that the Marines were, you know, the best of the branches, because I had a cousin that joined the Marines and he loved it and he got out, he became a better person for it. You know, so they had a little knowledge on that, but no, you know, they obviously knew what the military was. No, they didn't want me to go join, you know, but I was telling them, hey, Mom, come on, look around the world. Nothing's going on. We're not at war. It's peacetime. I'm just going to go in, get a little training, get out. I'll use my I'll use my home loan to, you know, buy a house, move out to projects. I'll use my GI Bill, go to school and college. Don't worry about it, Mom. It's easy peasy.
I'm going to use the Marines for me.
I'm going to use the Marines for me. Yeah. You know, and again, I wanted to escape the projects. I wanted to escape my environment. You know, my dad was still an alcoholic at the time. Yeah, so it was, yeah, I wanted to go. And that whole last year, my whole senior year, man, was great. Because I knew I was going into the Marines right after high school. So I walked into my counselor's office and I was like, hey, you know, I don't need enough credits to get into college. I just need enough credits to graduate high school. So please take all these BS classes off of my schedule, man. And I had the best senior year ever, brother. I did not have a first grade. Second grade was swimming.
Second period.
Excuse me. Second period was swimming. Third period was art. Fourth period was art. Fifth was like government, and sixth was work study, right? So I was only going to school for one real class, government class, and I was partying the whole time in my senior year. I wasn't playing football anymore because I knew I was going into the Marines. So I was like, football, man, I don't want that rigidity and, all that hard work. I'm going to enjoy my last, my senior year.
Anybody else around you, buddies wise, that was going towards the military, or were you kind of like an oddball all by yourself?
There had been a couple guys from the football team that had joined the military the year prior.
What I'm getting at is were you in a group together, or were you just kind of on your own little island? Like, hey, this is where I'm going, and I'm not really concerned.
No, I was on my own. I was one of the first ones from my football team, to join and to express interest. So I had a lot of friends, try to talk me out of it. Oh, you're stupid. Are you gonna go fight the white man's war? You're just gonna become a robot. You're just gonna be the pawn. All this. You're so dumb. You should go to college. You should do this. And oh, dude, this is what I want to do. I'm convinced that's what I'm doing.
Did you find yourself trying to seek out any other Marines to try to learn about the Marine Corps before going in?
No, man. I saw the change that it had on my cousin. He was a gang member, joined the Marines, got out, reformed, became a cop, so I saw that change. That's it, I saw Full Metal Jacket. That's about all the research I did on the Marines and the Marine Corps. I knew we were the first to go. I knew we were the toughest. I knew we were smallest branch. That's about all I knew.
Didn't take that senior year, obviously, but to really kind of square yourself away, you kind of sounds like you almost kind of slid into boot camp not prepared. Not prepared
at all, brother. I got fat and happy in that last year of school. I was lean, I was fast, I was running track, I was playing football, right? So I was exercising daily, and then that whole year just went all to shit. I was eating all my favorite foods. My mom was cooking all my favorite foods because she knew I was leaving. I was working, so I had money in my pocket, constantly eating out. Man, I went to boot camp at 185 pounds. I got out at 145 pounds. It was tough. Boot camp was tough for me because I was a fatty.
MCRD?
MCRD, correct. Yeah.
What was that experience like for you? Yellow footprints?
Fuck, bro. So I got to backtrack a little bit. So my first day of boot camp should have been September 11, 2001. Right? So on September 11, 2001, my recruiter picked me up at 0300, took me down to MEPS. MEPS is down in El Segundo, right, not too far from LAX. And, I'm going through the whole process. We had just finished taking all the medical tests. They look at everything and test you for everything. And I was just a few seats away from going into a gunnery sergeant's office and signing my final contract, right? You review everything on your contract, your job, your station, all that. You sign it, then you go into a room, you swear in, you do your final swear in, then you get in a bus or you get in a plane and you go off to boot camp. So I was sitting there, waiting, just quietly. Quiet room. Oh, well, actually, it wasn't a quiet room. Very noisy military,
just a few people in there.
Right, yeah, just a few people in there. So I'm sitting there, just quiet, just kind of thinking, okay, I'm about to go sign. And someone walks in and is like, what the hell? You guys aren't watching? We're being attacked. And just turns on the TV. First plane had already hit the tower. Everything goes silent. We're watching. No one knows what the heck's going on, if we're being attacked, if we're not being attacked. Second plane, we watched the second plane hit, and at that point, everyone knows we're being attacked. Everything just kind of goes a little slow-mo, and at the same, I'm just sitting there watching. I have no idea about the Twin Towers. I have no idea where that's at. I know where New York's at, but at the time, I had never left Culver City, man. I had no reason to go east of the 405. I knew nothing about New York and the Twin Towers or anything like that. And it wasn't until after, the news reported that Bush grounded all planes and shut down all military installations. So that's when that MEPS commander, walked in. Okay, well, you heard the news. You heard the commander in chief. We got to get all these kids home. There's no planes flying out, and all bases are shut. So everybody work on getting your kids home, except for the Marines. You guys are a short bus ride down to MCRD. We don't need planes for that. We're at war. War needs Marines, and we're going to get you special permission to get on that base. So you guys sit tight. Oh, fuck. So then at that point, they were like, all right, well, kids, you're free. Go, make phone calls, call your parents, tell them you're coming home, let them know everything's going to be okay. So all the kids rush to the pay phones. They're all making phone calls. I'm just sitting there waiting, just watching TV. Like, holy shit, what the fuck did I just get myself into? He's not sending me home. He's keeping me here. We're being attacked. He just said, fucking we need Marines. I enlisted as a combat engineer, so the little that I knew about the combat engineers, like, we're at the front. The Marines are at the front, but it's the engineer right in front of all of them, making sure they have a clear path to get through, right? So I'm just thinking of my choices. Like, fuck, what did I just get myself into? And
excuse me, could I pick another MOS?
Yeah, exactly, right? So is it too late to go National Guard or Army? Is the Air Force still open? So, all the kids, they make their phone calls, and then I go to make my phone call. And my whole family was just trying to convince me not to go. They're like, come home. You're in the Marines. You're going to be a combat engineer. You're going to be right at the front. Like, we're in Culver City. MEPS is only about 15 minutes away, from El Segundo. They're like, we'll go pick you up. Have you signed your final contract? No? Okay, good. Well, I'll go get you.
Sneak out.
Exactly. Every family member took turns trying to convince me to not join. And all I could think about is how I couldn't go home, So as I mentioned, I was an illegal immigrant for, until about 16, 17, when we naturalized. We went through the process, and the judge gave us political asylum to stay in the country. So at that point, I felt I had debt to this country. So when that recruiter called me up, talked to me about joining, I was like, oh man, this is great. Pay my debt to this country for letting my family stay. Get me the hell out of my environment. It's going to give me a few years to just kind of gain some discipline, figure out what I want to do with my life, mature a little bit, and it's going to give me some benefits. I was like, oh man, this is great. But then seeing the planes hit and knowing that I'm now going to be called upon and I'm now going to be going to war, I took that as like God or the universe just calling me out. Like, hey, are you really going to repay this debt? It's like, because if you run now, you're not repaying shit, And what I started thinking too, is like, man, if I go home, how would I ever be able to look at my son in the eyes and tell him, man up, go through something hard, even if it's difficult and challenging, you still got to go do it. Even if every ounce in you tells you you're scared and you're terrified, you still got to do it. You still got to man up. I can't do that. I'll never be able to look myself in the mirror. I was like, I'll never be able to look at my son in the face, and tell him to man up. I was like, I can't, I got a debt. I'm going to do it. I'm own up to it. And, so they kept us overnight. I swear to you, there's about 24 Marine recruits when we went back into the hotel. And then September 12th, that morning, man, there's only about a dozen of us. That got really small numbers. And man, we went in boot camp, and we got special permission to go into MCRD. Our drill instructors used that, of course, as a excuse to get more pissed at us. I was like, I can't fucking go home, but you could come in here. So it was just, we hit the ground running, man. Everything was about, we're going to war. We don't know where, we don't know with who, we don't know, when, but we're going to war, and we need to get ready. So that training tempo, that op tempo was just, it was tough.
Were you I'll call it a goofy recruit class, in that there were a limited number, or were you still a big class even with all the restrictions?
We were a little bit of a goofy class. Yeah, we had about 80 recruits, and normally it would have been 90 to 100. In
kind of hard to disappear when you start dropping the numbers.
Yeah, when you start dropping, it is, yeah. And I actually did a great job. You're talking about it's hard to disappear. I actually did a really good job of blending in the Marine Corps. One good piece of advice I got from my drill instructor, from my recruiter before I went in, was like, don't be first, don't be last, and don't volunteer for shit. I was like, well, why? I was like, you don't want attention. You're first, you're gonna get it. You don't want attention. Last, you're gonna get attention. Don't volunteer for shit. It's never anything good. Just do what you got to do. Don't get attention, and you'll do great in boot camp. So that's what I did. I was doing great, staying, middle of the pack, not standing out, not being an idiot. And then, finally, one of my drill instructors caught on to it. He's like, Diego, he's like, you've been trying to just blend in this whole time, but nope, I'm on to you now. And he picked on me for that ever since. He just picked on me. Every time someone got in trouble, Garcia, get over here, you too. I didn't fucking do anything. But just for trying to blend in, we all got it though in boot camp. And
being somebody who didn't like, as you talked about, I don't want to sit in school and the regulations, the regiment, the be here at this time. How did you find being in the Marine Corps, especially during boot camp? Did you adapt to it rather quickly, or did you struggle with it and fight it?
Oh, I struggled. I struggled a lot, man. Again, I'm a lover, not a fighter. I was just born into a tough situation. I had to become tough, and I had to fight. So going into Marine boot camp, you're trying to make you into killing machines. And again, I'm this lover, but I don't want to do all that. So no, man, it was tough for me to kind of break out of that. But I knew I had to. I knew I had to develop something within me to want to kill another human being, or else I'm going to die, or worse yet, I'm going to live and the person next to me is going to die, because I hesitated, because I was too much of a lover, too much of a softie. And I, didn't pull that trigger. I didn't jump on that grenade, or I didn't, rush to fighting hole. So I, especially knowing I was going to Iraq, I had to start making that change. So it was tough, man. It was mentally and physically. Boot camp fucking broke me. I remember writing letters, fucking tears coming out of the fucking letters, staining the words, right? Oh, I want to go home. The girlfriend at times fucking breaking up with, oh my God. The whole sob story. But, my body was breaking. My knees went out on me, man. I swear I had like pneumonia while I was in there, because every breath hurt for a while, and just, man, I was supposed to, going in at 185, being 5'7" and a half, I should have been on the like the fat recruits, meaning I should have only been eating salads because I was overweight. But they messed up on my height when I went in. They wrote down I was 5'8". So I barely made the height and weight requirement, and I wasn't a fat recruit, and I was allowed to eat everything a normal recruit was able to eat. And even with that, I still lost 40 pounds in boot camp, man. I came out really skinny at 145. When I went in 185, came out 145. So it broke me physically, mentally. It broke me, But it's why I joined. I wanted that discipline. I wanted to become a man. I wanted that structure. Because I knew I needed it. It's something I never had, and something I rebelled against. But it's like taming a wild horse or something. And they're going to buck, but eventually they're going to love having that saddle on them, And so I ended up liking the structure and the rigidity of the Marines. I ended up loving it, but it was tough.
This is going to sound like a very rhetorical and almost silly question. Did you feel different at graduation?
Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah, I'm Superman. I'm Superman next to a bunch of other Supermen. We were, we could leap over tall buildings. We could take on bullets. We could do anything we wanted to. We were Marines. Yeah, I felt a huge sense of pride, of belonging. I knew what I wanted in life. It was great.
The Marine Corps does a shitty job of instilling brotherhood. They should work on that.
Yeah, they should work on that. Yeah.
Was your family at graduation?
And they were. Yeah.
In a weird way where I'm thinking in my head, did it change anything with your relationship with your parents at that point?
I had a good relationship with my family and with my parents when everything was okay. My dad wasn't drinking; he was a great father. If my mom wasn't stressed out because we didn't have anything to eat, or whatever, she just wasn't all stressed out. She was a great mom. I can't really blame them too much on how they raised me, considering how they were raised themselves and their limited capabilities and understanding. So we did have a great relationship. So when they when they showed up to boot camp, when they showed up to graduation and everything like that, it was one of the first times where I saw them all really actually dressed up and, button shirt and slacks. My dad never dressed like that, so mom would make up and, they went all out, for my graduation. And it was really a proud moment for them and for me. So it changed the dynamics in the fact that, they were just a lot more proud of their son now, where when I was just this troublemaker, getting a bunch of trouble, getting kicked out, getting suspended from school, getting in fights, getting, just being mischievous, always getting in trouble. Now I was a Marine. So there was more pride in my family in them for that.
But I'm also imagining from your mom, especially your mom's perspective, because the idea of going to war wasn't down the road. It was literally around the corner for you. I mean, that had to be hard for them to see such a positive change in their son. But at the same token, now look at what you're potentially going to be put in front of.
Yeah. They would constantly ask me, so are you going? When are you going? Where are you going? When are you going? I was like, I don't know. We're training. We're constantly, doing some kind of training for the invasion. As combat engineers, we know our role, so we're constantly doing, training for our roles. And it wasn't until we knew we were going to go into Iraq, and it wasn't until maybe mid 2002 when we kind of had an idea that we were going to deploy. Early 2003, and when I deployed. When I deployed, I was told that my dad stopped drinking, so he didn't drink and he didn't pick up a drink for the whole time I was deployed, and ever since after that.
Wow.
There was just my mom told me that he was scared to be drunk, and someone came home to say that and then someone came to the house to say that I had passed. He just didn't want to be drunk if that were the case, so he stayed sober.
Wow.
They kind of picked up religion a little bit, and he changed a lot.
From command staff and the NCOs as you were training for your first deployment, they're probably still of the mindset of the Gulf War, like, this is gonna be quick, or were they already kind of seeing like, no, this is gonna be protracted?
We all thought it was gonna be very bloody, Saddam Hussein was using chemical weapons on his own people. He had already used them, chemical and biological weapons on his own people. He had used them in Iran. We knew he had them stockpiled, so we were expecting to get gassed. We're expecting to get some kind of biological weapon out of us. They had a huge stockpile of mines, and they had a huge stockpile of Italian mines. And the Italian mines are the worst because you can't really detect them. They got the least amount of metal in them, they hit our guts. So we thought it was going to be a very bloody war, and especially as combat engineers, because we had to go in there looking for the mines. We had to go in there, and being at the front, we were practicing with our NBC suits. We actually invaded with our NBC suits on, ready to be attacked with some kind of nuclear biological weapon. But no, we weren't expecting to just go in there and kick ass within a couple of weeks. No, we were expecting it to kind of be protracted and bloody. So, we did a lot of drills, casualty evacuation drills and, NBC kind of evacuation drills and stuff like that.
When were you deployed and when, like, in country?
So I was part of the initial invasion. So when I got to Kuwait in February 2003. I think March 21st is when we invaded. So when Bush said go, when he gave that call, I was already 6 miles away from the border, sleeping in a trench in full combat gear, just waiting for that order. That order came in over the radio. We're all fully dressed already. We jumped into our trucks and we started rushing that border, man. And we started rushing that border, and the whole fucking night sky just lit up because we didn't know, but the Army and the rest of the Marines had set up all the MLRSs, which are just trucks with the backs lift up and just shoot fucking missiles, man. So they were behind us and they just start letting loose, man. We had front row seats to shock and awe, and it was just most gorgeous thing you could see. It was a fuck yeah, adrenaline pumping, fucking missiles flying all behind us. We're fucking rushing towards the border. It was scary as fuck, but it was also just a huge adrenaline rush, And we get to the border. So the reason we were already there is because there was a lot of obstacles in between Kuwait and Iraq. So there was an anti-tank ditch, anti-tank mounds. There was electrical fences, concertina wire, and possible minefields. So we had to go through first, clear all that up, make a hole through all that for the rest of the invading forces to go through. So that's why we were the first. In my squad, I was a gunner to a machine gun to 240. So machine guns, they require two people to shoot them, right? The person that pulls the trigger, another person changes the magazine, loads the barrel, does all that stuff. So when we got we got through the wire, and then we got to the anti-tank berm, we had to go up to the top of the berm, with our machine gun, and then we had the bulldozers just kind of going through. And it was the middle of the night. So, man, I just sat on top of a berm with a machine gun, just waiting to be fucked with all night, man, while all these missiles are going through, and nothing ever happened that night. Yeah, nothing ever happened. We had contact, the breach point to the left and to the right of us. They had contact. We didn't get any contact. We bulldozed that anti-tank mound and filled in the anti-tank ditch, and made sure there was no landmines in the road, marked the road, and we maintained security for about 3-4 days while all the invading forces went through. Once that happened, we caught up with infantry. So pretty much Marine Corps infantry was kind of going in through, gaining ground. We're coming in, having their rear, and as engineers, we were building all the fobs. So we'd come in through with the bulldozers, start lifting berms. We'd build the fighting positions. So I filled out a shitload of sandbags, filled up a lot of sandbags, dug a lot of ditches, built a lot of little like huts out of wood. Made those are like a little checkpoint gates and little guard towers and whatnot. So that's what we did. Just infantry gained some ground. We'd go up behind them, build the fob. They'd gain more ground. We'd go up behind them, build the fob. And we did that until major combat operations ended. It seemed like it fucking happened, man. Just as fast as it started, fast as it ended, And after that, we switched over to doing humanitarian work. We started rebuilding a lot of shit that we fucked up. A lot of irrigation ditches, a lot of irrigation canals is what we focused on. Rebuilding those, because as you can imagine, tank rolls through, irrigation ditch, irrigation canal fucks everything up, And those people, they're dependent on that
right.
water, So we were trying to do our best to get all these farmers, flowing water again.
When you went in initially, were you thinking one enlistment and you're out?
Yes. When I went in initially, I was like, man, I'm gonna do my 4, get out, use up all my benefits. I didn't see myself as a career person. And about the first year of my enlistment, I hated it. It was just tough physically. It's really fucking tough physically, and I hated it. But once my body caught up, and once I got stronger and faster, I loved it. And I saw myself doing 20 years in the Marines. And I wanted to stay in. I tried re-enlisting. So we had come back from Iraq. We did 6 months. We came back, and we were training to go back. And I was in one company, Bravo company, and it was Charlie company that was getting ready to go back. So they took everybody that was able to deploy from Bravo, and they augmented Charlie, right? Same thing. They took everybody from Alpha and augmented Charlie.
No downtime at all? Just almost back to back?
Yeah, back to back. It was 6 months deployment, then come back and train for 6 months, then go back out and another 6 month deployment, right? So we were augmenting Charlie. And this was back in 2003. So there was actually a stop move right before the war started, meaning if the next day you were about to get out and be a civilian, as soon as that stop move was enacted, you were stuck. You were stuck in the Marine Corps until they took that stop move out. So there's people that had to do an extra year and a half in the Marines, after the contract. So when we got back from the invasion, Bush removed that stop move. Everybody got fucking out, because these were people that joined before war, before 9/11. All these motherfuckers got out, So the Marine Corps was like bare bones. So I was in Charlie Company as a Lance Corporal, 19 years old, one of the most senior persons there, the guy in charge of the whole company, I think, was a staff sergeant, and which isn't that high up. He calls us all for formation, and he's like, who's deployed? Who's had their trigger time? About 2 of us raised our hands. All right, you 2 come over here. He's like, everybody else is brand new. They're like, all right, who here just had a baby or, just got married or has a sick this or a sick blah, blah, blah. A few more people raise their hands. All right, you guys are coming with me. We're going to task you to do something else, So I lucked out and I got tasked to do environmental health and safety at a battalion level, so I got tasked to do that for the last 2 years of my contract. And while I was doing that, I guess I fell more in love with the Marine Corps. And that's when I chose. I was like, man, I'm going to make a career out of this. I'm a re-enlist. I was fucking working out 3-4 times a day. I was running, lifting weights. I was squared away, man. It's the only time in my life I remember waking up at, 4 or 5 in the morning and just jumping out of bed, excited to take on the fucking day. I was excited to be a Marine. I loved being a Marine.
Are you back at Pendleton?
No. Oh, yeah. No, I'm sorry. Yes, I was in Pendleton. Yes. I was in Pendleton. And so I was doing the safety stuff, and then my reenlistment time was going to come up. So I did my reenlistment package. And I was also doing a corporal's course, which is a leadership course, right? So I did my reenlistment package, turned that in. Then I'm off to corporal's course, which is like another little mini boot camp, but to become a better leader within the Marines. So while I was away doing that, the window for reenlistment opened up and closed. So I get out of corporal's course, call my career counselor. I was like, hey, did I get my reenlistment? She's like, no, everything closed out. You can't be a combat engineer anymore. The only thing you could be is a grunt, a cook, or a radio tower control person. And I was like, well, fuck, I'm not getting up at 4 a.m. and cook fucking eggs for people. I was like, I don't want to be a fucking grunt. I just, as a combat engineer, you're not a grunt, but you're pretty fucking close to it. All we do is train for blowing shit up, for combat stuff. It's not like we're admin, we're doing paperwork. It's not like we're truck drivers and we're driving trucks. No, combat engineer, all your training for is for combat. So we're the closest thing you could get to an infantryman without being infantry, right? So no, I didn't want to be a fucking infantryman. I thought about radio tower control person. But then I read how stressful those jobs are and how those hours fucking really suck. So I took it aside. I was like, all right, I'm going to get out. I'm going to go use my benefits. I'm going to go to school. And at the time, I was married. I had married my high school sweetheart. I married right before we left to Iraq. And for a couple of reasons, mostly for money. You get paid more when you're in the military and you're married. And so I did that. And I was trying to get her pregnant, man. I thought I was going to die. We were preparing to die. I had made a will. I had written letters to all my loved ones. We were going to be at the front line invading Iraq. We were almost certain we were going to hit a landmine, or we were going to get gassed, or we were going to get some kind of nuclear weapon thrown at us. So we were convinced we were going to die. So I was like, man, well, let me get her pregnant. And, so my mom has a grandchild, so when I don't come back, luckily she didn't want to get pregnant, and we didn't get pregnant. Anyway, man, I got out, and I had the little safety experience that the Marine Corps gave me with the Industrial Hygiene and Safety Office. I built a resume around that. And because I was bilingual and had that little safety experience, I got snatched up and started working. I had a job lined up before I actually even EAS'd, before I got out. I was already working. I got out, just went right into the workforce, right into working.
As far as that aspect of it, of lining something up before you even got out, did you have anybody helping you with that, or was this all on you getting your resume dialed in? Because I've talked to a lot of veterans, and one of the things is they don't know how to translate what they did while they were in the military into what's going to benefit them on the outside. Or worst part, they just don't know what they want to do when they get out. So they have to go to TAPS, but you sit through that and you're like, just let me check the box. I just want to get out of here, because they don't have a vision for what's down the road for them. How did you dial that in so quickly, even before you got out?
I was able to recognize that it was that going after a safety career was kind of my only option. I couldn't work in explosives. The civilian sector don't like military guys working with their explosives. I tried becoming a cop. I did the test, and I failed it because I'm a horrible speller. So I think I failed on the report writing. I took the test to become a firefighter, and I got into the first tier. But unbeknownst to me, no one in the first tier ever makes it into the LA Fire Department. It's only people from the above tier that make it, right? And to be in the above tier, you got to have all these certs, and it's who you know. So I didn't get into that. So my only option, the only useful skill I felt that translated to civilians was the safety stuff, this OSHA stuff. I was lucky enough to have a sergeant in my in the unit that I was with doing the OSHA stuff, and he was transitioning out, and he had lined himself up a job that paying 6 figures already because of all the experience he had with the safety stuff. So he really kind of drilled it into all of us. He's like, hey guys, there's a future with the safety stuff, so work on your resume. Let me see your resume. Let me help you check out my resume. Start going on Monster. Looking up for jobs, seeing what they're looking for, what kind of requirements they want. So he pushed us. He kind of tried to get us to have some kind of direction with that safety stuff.
When did you get out?
2005.
And that first step off, even though you had a job lined up, you talk about how you had made the switch. The Marine Corps had gotten into you and you wanted to stay. You're now out as a civilian. Even though you've got a job lined up, how was that transition for you?
It was not easy. Shortly after I got out, I got divorced. So I was alone. I had family that lived in Culver City. I moved back to Culver City, but I wasn't living with my family. I was staying in my own apartment, right? So I was alone, and I was still stuck in that Marine Corps mentality of being hard and gung-ho and, being aggressive. And I didn't know I was aggressive, but, the civilians were aggressive and partying hard.
To you were just a Marine.
To me, I was just me. To everybody else, like, oh, man, this guy's fucking too much. I was like, well, goes too hard, wants to, too loud, cusses a lot, bad jokes, all this, everything, I wasn't very corporate. So it was difficult, it was difficult. I thought I was normal and, but I wasn't. I was a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more rude, or a little bit, my jokes are off-colored, and it was difficult, One thing that started happening is when I got out is I had a tough time going to sleep. My brain was shut off. I couldn't sleep. Every little noise would set me off, would fully wake me up. The lights would go off. It's outside, as many times where I'd get up and grab my AR and, clear the house and my mind just wouldn't shut off, and it wouldn't shut off, and it wouldn't shut off. And that's when I started, kind of realize, like, man, this whole transitioning back is kind of tough, because I'm sitting here thinking I'm doing a great job because I have a career and, I'm successful. I got a house, I'm making some money. But I don't feel normal around people. I don't feel comfortable around people. I don't want to go out with people. I don't want to go hit the bars. I don't want to go hit the clubs. I just want to stay home, alone in my dark room with a cold beer, watching TV, and it took friends to be like, that's not normal, bro. You're 21,
I was just in my head while you're telling this story. I'm thinking to myself, you're 22, maybe 23 at best, and you don't want to live your life.
I had making great money. I was fucking, I think at the time I was pulling in like $70K a year, at 21. No bills, no mortgage, no nothing, back in Culver City, which is if you're familiar with LA, Culver City, Venice, Santa Monica, very popular towns, lots to do, very happening. Everyone wants to be there, and I did it. I didn't feel comfortable being around people, and I didn't want to, and I didn't know why.
Little tidbit, Chippendales was in Culver City. Remember the original Chippendales?
Really? I did not. No, I did not know that. Yeah.
But no, I spent a lot of time growing up in El Segundo. So when you mentioned, I knew exactly where you were. My dad was with American Airlines my entire life. And when he first moved out here from New York, his first apartment was on Imperial Highway in El Segundo.
Okay. Yeah. So I know exactly where we're at. Yeah.
Did you struggle with work? You mentioned that you weren't very corporate, but were you able to at least maintain a work demeanor, or were you getting in trouble at work?
No, I was able to maintain a work demeanor. So I was very professional while I was at work, and I call it put on the monkey suit. I put on that monkey suit, and I behaved the way they wanted me to behave, and I did what they wanted me to do, and I was very good at my work. It was off work when I would get in trouble. So I had lined up a job for me right before I got out, working for an insurance company as a safety consultant. So they brought me in. I was killing it, doing great. And then one day my boss he decides to hand over a big account to me. He's like, hey, I need you to go down to San Diego. This is a really big account. They're going to have this big, safety stand down thing. Everybody, 100 employees are going to all show up to the job site. You're going to give them the, your safety class. And I was like, cool. Nothing I haven't done before. No worries. No problem. Sends me down to San Diego. I'm in the hotel room. Can't sleep. Mind's not shutting off. I'm like, shoot, I got to get to bed. And there's a strip club on the other side of the parking lot. I thought, all right, you know what? I'm just going to head over there, do something a little bit different, have a couple brews, come back, go to sleep. I go in there.
Famous last words.
Exactly. I go in there, I'm having a good conversation with the bartender. The bartender's cool. He starts feeding me drinks. Next thing I know, they turn on the lights. They're like, all right, everybody get the fuck out. And it's like 4 a.m. and I'm stumbling out. I'm like, oh shit, I got to go give a safety talk in like 3 hours. I can do it. Let me just go get a quick power nap. Nah, slept through, missed the class. Boss is blowing me up. He's like, hey, where are you at? And I was like, shit, I can't make it. I was like, there's no way I'm going to show up. Hungover week, and I was like, I can't make it. So, needless to say, got fired from that job. But I very easily found another job doing the same thing, working in safety. Being a safety inspector for a chain of grocery stores.
Can I put you on the spot real quick? Was that a one and done incident with that company, or had you had other incidents and that was the final straw?
That was a one and done with that company. So my boss is like, I've seen this before. He's like, I've hired other military guys, and you guys all have this problem. He's like, you're great workers. He's like, but it's off hours.
I can't put you in a cage when you're not working.
Exactly. He's like, so I'm sorry. He's like, I'm not going to give you another opportunity. All right, no worries. And I'm starting another career with another company. I was killing it in that. I impressed a consultant while I was doing my safety stuff that worked for the chain of grocery stores. He referred me to a very large meat processing facility that needed a bilingual safety guy. So I got that gig, and that gig was great, man. I excelled at it. But at the same time, my boss was he enabled my bad behaviors. My problems didn't go away. I still couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. I could. Shit you not, man. I could go home, lay down at 9 p.m. in bed and keep my eyes closed, and my mind is just would just stay awake, just thinking about everything and anything all night through to 6 a.m. and get up, go to work. And I could manage maybe a couple of days like that. But 3rd, 4th, 5th day, man, you start getting loopy, you start getting moody. So I did what I knew worked best, man. I relied on alcohol. To shut off my brain, and got to a point where I was depending on it too much. And I went to the VA and I was like, look, guys, I got a great job, but I'm struggling because I can't go to sleep. I'm not making it work on time. I'm not, doing as good as I know I can do because half my brain is fucking asleep or, not there. And, it's just like, I just need to sleep. Need to sleep, in the VA. They're like, oh, okay, sure, no worries, Gave me this questionnaire, part of the questionnaire, it asked about anxiety, depression, all that. Part of it was also like, well, how much do you drink? And I was like, okay, well, I answered truthfully. My dumbass, I answered truthfully. Oh, not too many, maybe 4 to 6 a day. And they're like, oh, well, that's actually quite a lot. And
that doesn't fall into the normal range.
That doesn't fall in the normal range at all. So before we treat your insomnia, we first need to treat your alcoholism. And for that, you need to come onto the property Monday, Wednesdays, to the West LA VA, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I think it was like 9 to 11 for our, inpatient treatment. I was like, dude, you guys are not hearing me. I have a career. I'm trying to do good at it. I work 6 to fucking 4. I can't leave at 7 from, downtown LA from Vernon to go to West LA, travel for an hour, to sit there for 2 hours for this freaking alcohol anonymous class or whatever the fuck, and then go back to work. Like, I'm going to lose my job. I just need to sleep. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm just suffering from insomnia. Treat my insomnia. I don't even want to fucking drink. I don't even like the taste of alcohol. I just use it to sleep, treat my sleeping issues. And they wouldn't. They insisted that I first had to go through and pass their class. And I was like, you know what? Fuck you. I was like, I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing. Good enough. And luckily that boss at that, well, I don't know, luckily, but that boss at that company, he was really gung-ho for the military. So, he loved the fact that I was a Marine, and plus I was killing it at work. They were, that company was like chopping fingers off every other week, and 5-6 months after I'm there, my accidents stop. And, so I'm really killing it. So he loves me, saving them a bunch of money, and insurance costs. So he loves me. But he very quickly learns that, I'm using alcohol. I can go to sleep, I would tell him too. I was like, Andy, I couldn't go to sleep, man. I killed a fucking bottle of wine, and now I'm just a little bit too hungover to get up. So I'll show up a little late. He'd enable me. He was fine with it. And it was, I suffered, man, for many years like that, just using alcohol to go to sleep, to treat my insomnia, to treat my PTSD. And until I couldn't take it anymore, until I couldn't take it anymore, and I ended up quitting that job.
Did you ever
back to school?
Did you ever recognize it as PTSD, or were you just fooling yourself to say it's just insomnia? It's just insomnia.
I was fooling myself. Like, yeah, it's just insomnia. It's just, bad dreams. I didn't really know what anxiety was until, I was 2, 3, 4 years into anxiety medication. I didn't know what clinical depression was or depression was until I was, 2, 3 years into treatment and medication. I didn't know what that stuff was. I didn't know PTSD was being hypervigilant everywhere you went, noticing every single person who walks into the room and what they're doing and, all their actions. It's draining on the body. And I didn't know any of that. I couldn't sleep. That's all it was for me. And I knew that, a few beers would help, and in the Marines, we all drank. I don't know if you know, but Marines like to drink.
No, I heard. No, it was the Navy that started in a bar, right?
Yeah.
The thing that, when you look at it from a bigger picture, is you say PTS, because I know right now they're really trying to get away from the D stigma. Mm-hmm. That post-traumatic stress, I don't think a lot of people really realize it, and I think you just hit the nail on the head. A way to explain it is, it's not a fear, it's this sense of anxiety that is 24/7, that is, even to a degree, subconsciously, your insides are running 200 miles an hour all the time. Mm-hmm. And you may be aware of it. Hey, I can't sleep. But the time when you're awake, it's still doing 200 miles an hour. It's just not as perceptive until I just want to get some sleep. Yeah. And the effects that has to have on the body long term. And for some companies to sit there and, like you say, the one thing that a veteran or first responder will bring to the table is, you have a job to get done, I'm going to get it done. And so you were talking about that enabling employer of, man, he's killing it. He's getting what I need. So he misses a day because he's drinking. That's not helping. That's not helping you for the long term, because it's allowing you to self-medicate.
Yeah. And I did that. I did that for a long time. And a lot of my friends were doing the same thing too, and it wasn't until a buddy of ours, my fire team leader, corporal that I was, that was in charge of me while we deployed, that committed suicide. It wasn't until he committed suicide that it kind of sent a shock through all of us. Like, hey, maybe we are a little fucked, because that was his second attempt and he finally did it. And then a few months, about about 2 years after that, another buddy of ours committed suicide. He shot himself in the head as his girlfriend was driving him to the VA because he was in the middle of a meltdown. And then maybe a year later, another buddy, passes, commits suicide. And then a couple of years, another guy, passes away because he's doing some really, really risky behaviors and whatnot. And it wasn't until all these things started happening that, the friends that I maintained in contact with from the Marines, we started talking, okay, hey, we're all kind of suffering this stuff, we're all having these issues. Maybe there's something here that we need to start taking care of. And actually, because of that, I ended up doing this, at the time, it was experimental treatment for veterans using magnetic resonance therapy. So essentially, it's you go to this clinic and they're using the technology to treat like people with autism and depression and addiction, and they were starting to see if it helped military guys with PTSD. So I ended up taking this treatment, man. It was great, and it was one of the things that I think helped me tremendously to better my situation in my life. But basically, this clinic is called the Brain Treatment Center. They've been around for a long time now. They're down in Newport Beach, and they induce magnetic resonance of magnetic waves through this magnet kind of put outside your head. They induce these magnetic waves, and it kind of starts getting your brain waves to sync, with the magnetic waves they're inducing. And it feels nice, man. You feel it. You feel it in your body when this machine is on. And just one treatment of that, and I was able to sleep. Just one treatment. And I went back home and I was watching TV and I fell asleep on the couch. My head leaned over. And that's something I hadn't been able to do since I was since high school, since before the military. I was never able to pass out watching TV on a couch, just kind of sitting up.
And for a point of reference, you said you got out in 2003.
I got out in 2005.
2005. Yeah. And what year is this that you're finally able to pass out on the couch and get some sleep?
2012.
Without drinking?
Correct.
So 7 years.
After that treatment. That treatment helped me out for a long time. So I was able to go to school, got my bachelor's. I was able to get back into the workforce and started working for an insurance company as a senior consultant for them. So again, making really good money, doing really good work and everything.
Was this before or after you actually started talking to somebody and go into therapy?
So I started going to therapy, I would say 2008, and I started receiving meds about 2008, 2009. This was VA therapy. And this doctor sucked, man. I won't say his name, but this doctor freaking sucked. He did more talking than I did. And it's like, wait a minute, I thought I was supposed to be telling you my issues and you kind of chiming in, telling me how to, what to do with things. Like, man, you're sitting here telling me stories about, your childhood and how you grew up and everything. Like, this is backwards.
I came in more screwed up after talking to you.
Yeah, exactly. His sense of helping was like, oh, you still feel a little depressed? Take another pill. Up the dosage. Let's up the dosage. Oh, yeah. Take some more here. Some more lorazepam, Xanax. Here's some more. It's like, here's 3 months worth of lorazepam at once. There you go. So for a little bit, yeah, I was actually, I don't want to say I was addicted, but I was very, 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 very dependent on lorazepam.
Were you still combining alcohol with it?
Yeah. I wouldn't drink too much and do the pills. I'm not a pill guy. But I would do it. Yeah. I would, take lorazepam, like 2-3 beers, and I'd be fine. And I'd smoke pot with it too, so I'd be on pot and lorazepam and, drinking and it wasn't until I went to that brain treatment center and, I was able to kind of leave all that stuff. And I went to the doctor. I was like, dude, I don't want this lorazepam anymore. I was like, you gotta keep this shit away from me. I was like, it helps. I was like, but I like it too much and I don't want to become dependent on it. So I got away, from the meds, walked away from the meds because of the treatment. I got into the brain treatment center and I was back on track, man. I was feeling good. I was doing good. I was excelling at work, kicking ass and taking names. And fucking COVID hits. And so I got remarried. Right. I had kids. I had my first girl in 2017. So 2020 when COVID hits, I already saw it coming because I was in the insurance industry as a safety guy and listening to the news, hearing everything was going on in, China and Wuhan. And so I knew it was coming. And when it finally came, everybody was on lockdown except for the essential employees, right? Well, someone had to teach those essential employees how to not get ill and how to keep their workplaces safe. And that somebody was the insurance people and the safety guys, So while everybody was on lockdown, farting around on TikTok at home, I was actually driving around all over the freaking county. I was actually very busy working a lot. Wife was at home. She had some, postpartum depression going on. Then on 2020, we got pregnant again, right in the middle of COVID. So I'm working all kinds, kicking ass, taking names, actually get promoted during COVID because great work I'm doing. Wife's at home. She's stressing out. I got all this fucking work piling up again and get right back into it, man. I can't fucking sleep. I can't think straight. I have to write like reports and I can't write coherent sentences. My mind's starting to slip again, and me and the wife started having some issues and I wasn't taking care of myself, man. I went right back to, doing what I knew worked best and, using alcohol to help me sleep, to help me with my anxiety. I went back to self-medicating and I went back to the VA too, but this time, found a new doctor. This doctor actually cared. He's a Navy corpsman and he was stationed with the Marines. So he got it, through a lot of trial and error, man, a lot of meds, a lot of tweaking meds, different dosages, different combinations of stuff, finally got me to a point where I was able to sleep better and manage my anxiety. But then I get diagnosed with other shit's going on with my body. And then I get diagnosed with fibromyalgia, So with fibromyalgia, man, it took a long time to get the diagnosis, and it wasn't until I got diagnosed with everything else first before they were like, oh, it's fibromyalgia. But pretty much, man, my body's had it, bro. I have anxiety, I have depression, insomnia, I have sleep disturbance. So when I do go to sleep, I have really bad nightmares and I punch into all that shit. Fucking IBS, joint issues, fingers lock up because of trigger finger, get burning sensations in my muscles underneath my skin, IBS, like you name it, man. It's this fucking list of just the whole body going to shit. And I'm sitting there still just trying to work my ass off. I'm with the meds, with the diagnosis, with the pain, with the home issues, and I'm just still trying to work my ass off. And then one day I'm just like, dude, talking, with the wife and just thinking to myself. And then, the doctor's saying, hey, the only way you're going to get better is if, you reduce your stress. And I was like, well, I guess that means I got to walk away from my career, and I walked away from my career, man. I was, It was a sweet career. Work from home, company car, 6 figures, made my own schedule. I was killing it. My media supervisor loved me. The VP of the department loved me. I was their top employee. And I had to walk away, man. I was telling myself, I'm either going to be a good employee or I'm going to be a good father. And, I can't be both. And, I want to be a good father. My daughters are young. One was a newborn right at COVID. And so I had to walk away from the career, man, and just, focus on trying to be the best dad as I could be, and focus on trying to, make myself a better person, and working on getting my mind right and being able to sleep well. And it's took a long time, man, a long time. It's been 4 years since COVID, and luckily now I don't have to take all the same amount of medications as I was taking back then, because I have been taking care of myself. I've done a lot of things. I went to Reality Center that helped me out. I went back to the Brain Treatment Center, helped me out. I went back to the VA. The VA's been revamped, so they got better doctors now that care. I went to the vet center. That's also another. It's not VA. It's run by veterans only. So I took classes on chronic pain management. I took classes on nutrition, took classes on like anger management, so I started going to the VA and using all my resources, kind of really get my mind right, man.
What have you transitioned into? What are you doing now?
So now I run my nonprofit. So I started a nonprofit in 2018 called Semper Utilis. As a Marine, right, we use Semper Fidelis, always faithful. Semper Utilis is Latin for always useful. So what I hope to do one day with my nonprofit is to employ disabled and disenfranchised veterans in recycling and upcycling. So basically, I take in donated recycling, and what I'm going to do in the near future, well, I'm already doing it now, but we're creating items out of the recycled plastic. So right now we're just starting with coasters, right? With the bottle caps, we grind those down, melt them and inject them into molds, and we're making coasters. But we want to start making any product out of plastic you could think of. So I want to start a line of products made out of recycled plastics, manufactured specifically by veterans for the specific purpose of employing that veteran. Right? If you're going to buy some sunglasses, you could buy some cheap overseas sunglasses, or you could buy some sunglasses manufactured by a disabled veteran here in the United States for the specific purpose of putting money in that veteran's pocket. So I started focusing on my nonprofit. That's what I started doing. I collect a lot of recycling now, and what I do with the proceeds from that recycling is I help out the unhoused and veterans receiving services over at the West LA VA. So there's a lot of veterans that live in like little tiny shelters there, and that they're receiving various. They live on the property because they're receiving various treatments and whatnot. So I started showing up during the pandemic in 2020 when all the guys were on the sidewalk. I started showing up then, bringing them water, hygiene kits, and stuff like that. Now that the guys are off of the sidewalk and onto the property, we still show up. I got permission from the VA. We show up once a month, and we do barbecues. We bring them donations, clothes, shoes, hygiene gear, books, all that stuff. So we have these little events for them once a month. So now, I'm focused on that, focused on my nonprofit. I want to start manufacturing, and start selling products here soon this year, early next year. I want to start doing it. And so, yeah, man, just been focusing on doing good work, helping other people helps me, helps me feel useful, helps me feel, like I'm still capable of doing good work. I can't work with my hands anymore. I can't really do too many physical things anymore. I can't sit down and write fucking reports, anymore. But, I go out and put a smile on someone's face, I go out and process some recycling to be able to give a hot dog or, burger to somebody in need, so that helps me feel good. It helps me stay, focused.
Like when you were coming out of the Marine Corps and you were fortunate enough to have a good voice in your ear, hey, start preparing, get your resume ready to go. When you came to the end and realized, hey, for my health and the health of my family, I need to step away from this career, did you already have stuff put in place, this nonprofit, or was it simply, I'm just walking away and then I'll figure it out?
I already had the nonprofit in place. Yeah. So I started a nonprofit in 2018. I quit my career in 2021, 22. And I started the nonprofit because I was driving around all over LA. And I'm from LA. I grew up in LA. I've been here all my life. And I started seeing the homelessness issue just grow out of control, not just in Skid Row, not just in downtown, but everywhere, in places you wouldn't expect it, And I knew that a lot of those unhoused individuals were veterans, so that would hurt me. I'm like, man, I want to help. I'm driving by, I'm seeing these people, at the same time, I'm very successful, eating filet mignon and shit. And I felt guilty for that. I was like, man, there's a lot of my brothers and sisters out there suffering, living on the fucking street. There's unhoused issues is blowing up. I was like, and, that could have very easily been me, but it's not, and I'm here in a better place. So I need to find a way to help. And one thing about my job as a consultant for an insurance company is I got to walk through many different manufacturers and businesses, You ever seen the History's Channel, How It's Made?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of walk through and show you the process, everything. That's my job. I get to walk through a manufacturing facility and be like, all right, what are you doing? How do you do it? Explain it to me step by step. So they explain it to me on paper, and I'd write it out, and then I'd have them give me a walkthrough of the whole facility, and I get to see everything of pretty much how it was made. So I got to see a lot of businesses that were making a lot of money through repurposing stuff and recycling stuff. There was a guy that I met, then he started his company recycling carpets, right? So he'd go to construction sites and say, hey man, I'll put my bin, throw all the carpets in my bin, and I'll remove them for free. And people are like, fuck yeah, here you go. And he started recycling the fibers for the carpets, right? Then one day AQMD gets on him because recycling the carpets is really dusty. There's fucking dust everywhere. Air quality control gets on him. Say, hey man, you got to do something about this dust. So he has to get a system to collect, and kind of, hold that dust. He gets the dust tested. It turns out the dust has some kind of calcium, something in it that's very sought out by the concrete industry. So this just started making buku bucks.
His waste byproduct is making him more money.
Exactly. Yeah, he's making money off of dust, which essentially is human skin and what else ends up in the carpet. So he's making money off of the dust from the carpet and the carpet itself, all because it's just trash and no one wants, and he has so much of it, and he found a way to give value to it. Same thing, found another company that did it with concrete. Another company that did it. I mean, there's companies that do it with anything and everything. If you got enough of something and you could repurpose it and you can get that enough of something for free, man, it's free money.
Or even just having the forethought to, let me get this dust tested and see what it is, as opposed to, let me just find a way to get rid of it.
Yeah.
I had another guest, Marine Corps, law enforcement. He started out with a pressure washer business. A coworker of his had this pressure washer business. He always told him, he said, hey, when you're ready to give it up, I'll take it over from you. And that's where it started. And then he would get a client and they'd want a driveway pressure washed. But then the neighbor would go, can you pressure wash this? Well, it wasn't exactly. And his mindset was, I'll make it work. Yes. And today he's got a company. It's grown into basically a plating business, because every time somebody go, can you do this? Instead of like, no, I can't, I'll figure out a way to do it.
Yeah. And that's what I started seeing, man. I'm like, there's a whole lot of people out there without nothing to do. They need careers and need jobs. There's a whole lot of plastic waste out there and CRV waste out there. A lot of these people are already, going to trash cans and, lack of a better word, dumpster diving for this shit. I'm just trying to clean that up for them. Instead of you throwing your recycling in the can and then someone maybe coming into your trash can and digging it out, like, hey man, come donate that to me. And then I'll provide a safe working environment for that person to come in, sort that stuff, make some money out of it, and, actually find a career in manufacturing. So, getting exposed to all the different manufacturing facilities and seeing all these different processes and seeing how it's possible. I was like, well, man, I think I could do something here. I think I could, maybe start a nonprofit, start collecting some donated recycling. Everybody has it. I didn't want to collect cash because that's what all nonprofits do. And to me, that's not sustainable. And at the end of the day, it doesn't give the person that's helping that much pride. You know what I'm saying? I've been the recipient of free groceries. Yeah, it's great. You feed yourself for the day. Guess what? Tomorrow, I'm going to need some more free groceries. The next day after that, But if you help me to fucking, get those groceries by myself, on my own, that's actually, giving more of a benefit to me and my family. And I just had the idea and I ran with it, man. And I started slowly, just very slowly. I started the nonprofit. I talked to attorneys, see if I could do it. Thought of the name, started collecting the recycling. And then it wasn't until 2020 when I found out about the veterans living out on San Vicente, outside of the VA on the street, where I felt like I was being called out by the universe again. And I was like, well, here you go. You started this nonprofit in 2018 to help, disenfranchised veterans. I've been collecting recycling for a few years now. I had a little bit of money in the bank because of that. And now here's a group of veterans that need the help. So I started, I bought a pallet of water and a bunch of hygiene bags. And I started hitting the street and started going tent to tent, passing this stuff out with the guys and started talking to a lot of them. And I just saw myself in them, bro. I was like, shit, this could have been me. This could have been me. If I never got that break in learning about safety and learning about OSHA, I would have never gotten my career. Maybe I would have gotten out and, made a wrong turn somewhere and ended up here. This could have very easily been me. So it just, struck a chord in me, and I've been dedicated to those guys since 2020, man. Kind of a little off topic here, but that whole issue turned it into a lawsuit, So there's actually a class action lawsuit. A group of unhoused veterans sued the VA because the VA was using that particular property, the West LA VA over there, in a manner they weren't supposed to. So that property in the West LA VA used to be 1,000 acres, and it was donated to the federal government to be a home for disabled soldiers in perpetuity. It's supposed to be a home. So Civil War is when the land, shortly before the Civil War is when it was donated. So we got a bunch of Civil War veterans started using that property. At one point, there used to be like 5,000 veterans living in that property. Then somewhere in the 70s, the VA started kicking out all the veterans there. It started off at 1,000 acres. Now it's down to 388 acres. Out of those 388 acres, they were using a lot of that property for non-veteran related items. Right now, UCLA's baseball stadium is on there. Brentwood School, very, very, very expensive, lucrative school, $50K a year to go there for kids, They have 20-acre athletic facility on there. I think Fox had warehousing there. They had parking lots there. They had all kinds of stuff there. Public park. They have a dog park there. They got all these things on that property except for veteran housing, so helping those guys out. I found out about that issue and started supporting them and linked up with another guy, Rob Reynolds, that really led the fight in all this. And we got finally, found an attorney. We sued the VA. We actually won, so Judge Carter, district judge over in LA, ruled that, that for years, the VA has actually been corrupt and been taking bribes. And they hadn't been, doing service to the veterans. So he ordered that Brentwood School has to remove their athletic facilities. UCLA has to find a new baseball stadium. The parking lots have to go. There's oil drilling on the property. So all that has to go. So, we just won that lawsuit. And actually next week on the 25th, it's got to go back to court to figure out how we're going to get UCLA and Brentwood off of that property, figure out the next steps. But yeah, that's, being focused on something worthwhile and giving me a purpose again. It's really helped out, man, because, I was a Marine. Then when I got out, I lost that identity. And then, I found my career identity. I was a really badass safety dude and, lost that. And now, oh, fuck, what am I doing in my life? Hey, well, now I want to do this nonprofit work. Now I want to do right for other veterans. Now I want to ensure that, other veterans have a better situation once they get out, or when and if they do need it, that property's there and those resources are going to be there, for for their sake. And who knows, man, maybe one day I'm gonna need it. Maybe in a year from now I'll have another breakdown and end up in that, in that property needing some help. But it's important that it's there, and it's important for veterans to know that it's there. So and that advocacy, has been a big part of my life, and it's helped a lot.
I think it's really cool, though, to look at it from the perspective of, I'm sure when you signed on the dotted line, 17 years old, you weren't even, and you were looking at the available MOSs. If you had probably seen environmental health and safety, it had probably had zero interest to you. But when you look at when you're choosing your MOSs and what options you'll have when that ends, like you mentioned, combat engineer was cool. Civilian world doesn't want EOD guys, or at least they don't want military EOD playing with their civilian stuff. And so it's really important to think about, hey, if you're going to give the time, think about what you can do with that afterwards. But equally, you said something that was really interesting, is that you went into the Marine Corps and that was something that was going to put you in a potential life or death situation. You were killing it in the civilian world in your civilian job, but it was almost killing you as well. Yeah. And having the foresight to really kind of see beyond that and not feel like, man, I got no other options. I'm stuck here. So I give you a lot of credit for that, for having that ability to really kind of step back and say, I need to take care of myself and my family first. Yeah. For somebody who's maybe seeing themselves in that same situation, maybe they have an idea for a nonprofit. What advice would you give for moving forward with that, that you learned by going through the process?
Oh, man. Take your time, do it the way you want to do it. If you link up with other people, they're going to have their kind of idea of what they want. If you go after grants or you go after other people's money, there's going to be that pressure from them to kind of, hurry things along or do things a certain way. Since this was my idea and kind of my baby, I didn't want any of that. I did go up to a couple people to see if they wanted to link up and help, and they just kind of laughed at me. Like, you want to pick up recycling and do what with it and work with disabled? No, man, get away. So, I didn't let that discourage me, and I didn't put a timeline on myself. I still don't have a timeline. I'm using my own money. I'm using my, my garage, my buddy's garage. So, don't give up, just don't give up, do it. Even if you're doing it slowly, you're still doing it, and if you got that idea, try to stay as much as possible focused on that idea without, letting outside influences kind of steer you one way or another. Because it's very easy, when someone's like, oh, man, I give you a bunch of free money, but you got to do this, or you got to help this, or you got to tweak it that way. So, okay, well, I wasn't really focused on that. I'm focused on veterans. I don't necessarily want to focus on puppies, even if that does have a lot of money over there. So, when you're doing good work, man, it's about how you feel and how you're making the other people feel that you're doing the work for, and at the end of the day, that's what makes you feel happy, even if it doesn't, not lucrative, or even if it's not super successful in the beginning, just keep going, man. If it's feeding your soul, keep going.
If somebody does want to help you and what you're trying to accomplish with this, what would benefit you?
Well, pretty soon here, we're going to start selling some coasters made out of recycled plastic. So purchasing our coasters would help us. Again, I built my nonprofit not to ask for cash, because that's not too sustainable. I want to sell products. I want to, have a product this for that. To me, that's a little bit more sustainable, and it gives more pride to the person receiving those funds at the end of the day. So here in the near future, we're going to have some products. We're going to start selling some coasters. Hopefully we'll get into sunglasses, start making, the frames for the sunglasses. But with plastic, it's sky's the limit. We can kind of make whatever we want, as long as we have the mold for it. If ways people help me now is they collect the recycling for me. So I got different people and different organizations, companies that'll collect the recycling. I'll come through, once a week, once a month, depending, and pick up that recycling. And then with that recycling is what I do, how I fund the barbecues down at the West Lake and all that.
Most important, are you sleeping now?
Yes, I'm sleeping a lot better. I'm not taking the meds for it. I take my fibromyalgia meds. That's it. I'm not having to take my anxiety meds, my sleep meds, my depression meds, my IBS meds. I don't have to take all that stuff, and it's all because I'm managing my stress. There's this term, I don't know if you're very familiar with it. I'm quite new to it, but it's called self-care. Not a lot of people. I don't know. It's very new. It's I don't know. I think it's a French word or something. I don't know.
I think it's snake oil salesman.
Snake oil, right? For a long time, brother, I thought self-care was taking a shower, brushing my teeth. That was self-care, and it wasn't until speaking with other people, speaking with professionals, using the resources out there for me that I learned, no, self-care is, doing things that you like to do for fun. Someone asked me, when was the last time you played? Played what? What are you talking about? Play, well, do something for fun, just simply for the fact that it brings joy to your face, like, I don't know what that is. What do you mean? Because I didn't have any of that. I'm not into sports. I can't sit down and watch sports and, relax doing that. It's not my thing. I've always been used to working. I've always been used to making myself feel useful and earning and achieving. So I didn't know what it was to relax, to self-care, to go get a massage, to, relax and not feel guilty because you're relaxing and watching TV, to actually enjoy the downtime, not like, oh, fuck, I got this and that to do and all that. I can, you're not even relaxing, So the self-care stuff, man, it's, it's still something I'm
a work in progress.
I'm working in progress. Yeah. But it's more than just brushing your teeth and taking a shower for sure.
I appreciate your time. Thank you for coming down and sharing your story, and I wish you the best going forward with your nonprofit.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you watching. But before you go, if you like the video, please hit that subscribe button. Also, any comments are appreciated. Thank you.